Hello and welcome to American Football Bets. I'm your host Lewis, and today I'll be going over my tips for game week 4 of the NFL regular season. As always, please gamble responsibly. Links in the description below. Please like and subscribe as well. It takes just 2 seconds of your time. 2 clicks of a button really makes a huge difference to this channel. We have weekly videos like this, so please subscribe and like for more content like this. But without further ado, let's get into it. So just a very quick overview for my week 3 tips, and my nap of the week came in again for the 3rd week in a row. We now have a 100% record of winning nap tips for the season going into game week 4. And week 3 we had Jackson Smith-Njigba for the Seahawks hitting his over for receiving yards. Our other tips didn't quite hit, but it's nice to be going to week 4 with a 100% record on our naps. So with last week briefly covered, let's look ahead to my nap, my next best, and my accumulator for game week 4. Just a reminder of how I've made my choices for this week's bets, and obviously when making these selections you have to take into account the current roster and the season's performances so far. We still have a fairly small set of data from game weeks 1 through 3, and so some weight is given to last year's performances as well, and particularly in cases where the roster remains mostly unchanged for teams, and especially where this season's performances suggest the same strengths and weaknesses for those teams. They are the teams to target, as predictions can tend to be more reliable, being able to look at a larger sample size of data taken into account last season as well as the few games we've had this season. Then for those teams, I narrow down the fixtures I'm interested in by betting on looking at the teams playing each other that have opposing strengths and weaknesses. For example, are there any teams that are particularly good for rushing yards, playing teams that allow a lot of rushing yards? Are there any teams that are particularly good for racking up passing yards, playing teams that give up a lot of passing yards, etc, etc. Now that's explained briefly, let's look at this week's betting angles in more detail. So this week I've broken up my bets into my nap, my next best, and my ACCA for the week. And my nap for this week turns to the Chargers against the Giants, where we have a super hot Chargers offense against a battered, bruised, and frankly sloppy Giants defense. Justin Herbert for the Chargers is on fire, and the overline for the wide receiver Quentin Johnson for the Chargers is just 51.5 receiving yards. Quentin Johnson has seen an increasing number of targets and receptions as the season goes on for the Chargers, and so far he has not had less than 71 receiving yards this season, which is almost 50% more than what the bookies' current under-over line is offering for this game. And despite that, he's now going up against a poor Giants defence this week as well. So for those reasons, I'll be taking the over this week at odds of around evens for Quentin Johnson to have more than 51.5 receiving yards for the Chargers. So my next best bet for the week turns to the Las Vegas Raiders against the Chicago Bears. Similar to last season, the Bears have again been letting up plenty of passing yards, and this week they're against a Raiders team who, under the new leadership of Geno Smith, have found far more opportunities in the passing game than last year. Jakobi Meyers is Raiders wide receiver 1 at the moment, and with Geno Smith capable of plenty of deep passes that suit Meyers in particular, both of them are now playing against a weak Bears secondary. I think this is a great matchup and player to target. The bookies over-underline for Meyers' receiving yards is 64.5 yards, and he's been above that in reception yards in game weeks 1 and 2, both against the tougher defences, and he was just 2 yards shy of that last week against the Commanders, who I think have a far better defence than the Bears this week, especially now that the Bears face injuries on the defensive side of the ball. I can see this being a big game for passing yards for Geno Smith, so you could also consider the over passing yards market for him separately at odds of around evens to throw for more than 253 yards. And although I have a small wager on that line too, my selection and next best bet following my nap for the week is Jakobi Meyers at odds of around evens to have more than 64 receiving yards. Now for my week 4 ACCA, and I have a threefold handicap accumulator. Those selections are targeting the fixtures of the Vikings against the Steelers. Steelers at plus 1.5 points. The Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm selecting the Eagles at minus 3.5 points. And the Chargers against the Giants, the fixture we discussed earlier in this video, particularly looking at Quentin Johnson and his over-underline. But I'll be also selecting the Chargers to win this game at minus 6.5 points. The Vikings are favourites in their matchup against the Steelers, set to be played in Dublin this weekend. And despite missing their starting quarterback JJ McCarthy to an ankle injury, Carson Wentz will be stepping up in his place, and his recent history at quarterback hasn't been spectacular by any means. It's surprising to me that Vikings are favourite to win this game, given their performances so far this season and the injuries at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers is healthy and a far, far better quarterback in this matchup, leading the Steelers offense, who are mostly healthy. The Vikings also have injuries on their offensive line, particularly Javonte Jackson, and I favour Steelers to win this matchup despite all the injuries in key positions for the Vikings. And so I'll be taking the Steelers in this fixture at plus 1.5 in this handicap bet. Of course, even if the Vikings win by 1 point, which I don't think will happen, but our leg on this bet would still be coming in, taking the odds of plus 1.5. Looking now then at the second leg of this threefold handicap accumulator, and I'm selecting the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by more than 3 points. Both teams are going into this fixture 3-0, but the Bucs now, very notably, are now without their star wide receiver one, Mike Evans, who is out with a hamstring injury, I believe. So the Bucs are without their main man, without their main offensive weapon, aside from perhaps Bucky Irving at running back. And although the Bucs have been effective against the run this season, I think this is a game we will see Saquon Barkley step up and get the running game working early on, which will in turn allow AJ Brown to have another strong week following from his solid performance aided by Jalen Hurts last week against the Rams. Finally, in this threefold, I'm taking the Chargers to beat the Giants by at least 6.5 points, one score this weekend. The Giants have announced they are benching Russell Wilson, interestingly, already, despite only being in Game Week 4, and they'll be starting Jackson Dart at quarterback. A change at quarterback may be a good thing for the Giants in the long run, but I don't suspect that will be an immediate solution to their offense that has failed to show a solid performance this season, scoring an average of 17 points per game so far. The Giants' star on offense, Malik Neighbours as well, has been questionable to play all week, and even if he does suit up, it may be on a more limited snap count. The Chargers, however, are unbeaten, as we said, going into this game, 3-0, particularly with Justin Herbert and the entire offense extremely confident and performing on fire. With a new quarterback starting for the Giants, the Chargers' defence are equipped to put significant pressure on Jackson Dart and force him to make bad decisions and perhaps some turnovers in this game. And for those reasons, I fancy the Chargers to win this matchup by over 6.5 points. The entire threefold handicap gives us combined odds around 6-1 this week, depending what bookies you make your bet at. So that's it for today's picks. Thanks very much as always for watching. Please do like, please subscribe. It takes just a moment of your time, helps this channel a ton. And if you're going to be placing any of the bets I've mentioned, or if you have any of your own picks for this week, let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to respond to every single comment that's left. Please like and subscribe, as I say, for more content. Good luck for this week and see you next time.